Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Curious Mind podcast. My name is Gabriel Ellis. I'm a psychologist, psychotherapist, and a Buddhist scholar. And today I want to present to you the original Buddhist concept of Ayatana. So there is this key idea in early Buddhist teachings that helps explain how we experience the world, and it's called Ayatana. And even though it is super important, many people have not heard of it, and even Buddhist scholars have not understood it properly. I came across it when I was working for my dissertation, and I basically went through all of the important key terms in early Buddhist teachings and traced them back, if possible, to older Indian Vedic concepts. Ayatana was one of them. And so today I want to explain what Ayatana means and how it shapes the way we think and feel. So, what is Ayatana? Ayatana is a word that comes from early Buddhism that means something like home base or headquarters of the ego. This Ayatana is the place from which we normally interact with the world, mostly by seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and thinking is included in that, even though thinking is already some sort of a higher sense because it includes all the others with memories. So these are the basic tools we use to experience normal life. This is just what it is. Ayatana, as now going to the kind of more core meaning of this concept, it is the background or the canvas of our experiences. So, if the canvas is our exchange with the external world, then the paint, so to speak, of this canvas is exactly our sensual experience. And so, this Ayatana is called the sensual realm or the sixth sense realm, because traditionally, this is how we count our senses as six, including thinking in Buddhism. But the canvas of our normal Ayatana is not just the pure, raw, sensual experience, it's also about what happens next. So when you see or hear something, this information, this data, it contacts your ego. And the ego, in this sense, is our habitual reactions, our habitual thoughts, the memories that are triggered, the feelings, the hopes, expectations, and worries. And if you want to understand more about this process and how it is an inevitable aspect of our experience, then please go to the series of episodes that I made about everyday trance. Even more precisely, Ayatana is the term for the whole game of these daily experiences in normal life. It's a term for the home of the ego, again, with its memories and expectations, convictions and feelings, our habits, the habits of the ego. And then when the ego it leaves home, so to speak, for its daily walks, then it encounters sights, sounds, people, work, nature, all of these normal daily elements. And this either confirms or it alters the ego. The ego, more or less in its structure, stays the same. And this whole game, this exchange between ego and how it's affected by the external circumstances, by what it experiences, this is encapsulated in this Buddhist concept of the sixth sense Ayatana. The whole game is encapsulated in it. It's fundamentally the understanding that the background or the medium determines what foreground you can have. If the medium, for example, is canvas, what you can do with it is limited. You can only do the things that are able to do on a canvas. You can paint, you can draw, you can glue some mixed media on it. If you're skilled, you can create beautiful paintings. But what you cannot do is to make a sculpture out of a canvas or on a canvas. You cannot do video art on a canvas. So, in a similar way, a consciousness can do only certain things in a mind that is rooted in sensual experiences. And it is not able to do the other things that lie outside of the realm of sensual experiences. The life that comes out of that is the life that we know. It's pleasure and pain, it's hopes and worries, it's pride, anxiety, and regret. To give you an idea about the range of just this sensual normal Ayatana, within that big Ayatana, this home base or headquarters, as I call it, we have other small home bases. And these are our convictions about ourselves and the world. We can have positive convictions that people are essentially good, or that I am basically worth loving, or I'm capable. So what happens if I have a bad day, or if I get negative feedback from partners, family, or work, or I fail to achieve something important? If I have such basically positive convictions about myself and the world, I will bounce back to my positive outlook. Why? Because my positive convictions are my home. This is where I go back to. This is where I sleep. This is where I start my new adventures from. This is what I go back to. This is where I feel comfortable. Positivity is my home. So even if I experience something negative, I will bounce back. Now, in my experience in therapy, I deal usually with the opposite, which is when people have negative convictions, like I am not a good person, or I am not capable, or not worthy of love. Or equally, the world is a horrible place. If this is my home, then even if I have positive feedback, even if I achieve something important, I will eventually bounce back to my negative belief. Why? Because this is where I built my home. This is where I go back to. So such changes from negative convictions into positive ones, this is the job of therapy, or in best case, of self-development. But even when I can change these convictions, people are still rooted, or from a Buddhist perspective, stuck in the sensual Ayatana, the sixth sense Ayatana. In different words, if I can play the game better, I might win more, but it's still the same game from a Buddhist perspective. But Buddhism doesn't use Ayatana just to describe how consciousness is stuck. That would be a very negative, sober, and dire perspective. The Buddhist texts actually encourage us to fully understand what this game is and what the limitations of this game are, and to get to a more refined home base, to a more refined headquarters. For example, one teaching says, when a person sees the six ayatanas clearly, how they arise and how they pass away, then they are free. In other words, if you understand the whole mechanics of this sensual realm in which we're usually in our daily life, then this is the key for the Buddhist liberation. So both the Buddhist theoretical teachings and the practical meditation practices are a vehicle to leave the rat race of the sensual realm and to leave it behind. The practices of either letting go, or intense concentration, or Vipassana mindfulness, or kindness, loving kindness, they all elevate our experience to another level, away from the sensual realm. At first, this new experience is just a refreshing vacation, while our home base, our home, our headquarters, still remains in the sensual realm. But with deeper insights and broader experiences that come through the practices, it becomes pointless to go back home in the sensual realm. Why? Because those vacations, they show me that another way of living, another world exists, and it is so much more refined, it is so much more subtly pleasant, it is so much more safe than anything that the sensual realm, with adoration, acceptance, money, power, fame, the fulfillment of sensual needs, any of this can provide. And people who have taken those vacations regularly and are able to stabilize their experience with them, they long for having not just the vacations there, but to actually move there, to build their home there. And this is what the Buddhist texts, what the teachings, and what the meditation practices encourage us to do. Now, I completely understand that when people hear that and when they get fascinated with this idea because it sounds amazing, I see that this kind of gives rise to the dangers of escapism and of spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing means that essentially you have very concrete problems in this life and you want to just not do the work and put the real work in it and kind of transcend these issues and as a whole mature being to go to this other realm. No, you want to cut it short. You want to do an intense whatever workshop retreat or get ordained, leave all those problems behind without solving them, and then just get established in this new place. This rarely goes well. The development from the sensual realm to the more refined realms, the more refined ayatanas in Buddhism usually involve a whole change, an improvement of the personality in the sensual realm, for example, through ethical behavior, ethical thinking, ethical communication, so that the whole personality is kind of unified in this positivity and that it's ready, so to speak, to be elevated by the practice. To put it differently, if the personality is not wholesome in general, it will not be able to completely transcend the sensual realm and move to another headquarters, move to another ayatana, but it will be partly stuck in its unconscious, in the frictions, in the aggression, in the desires of the unsatisfied needs. And it will, because these will be still rooted in the sensual ayatana, it will be bouncing back, it will be dragged back into it. And so the escapes into the spiritual realms will remain a fantasy. Nonetheless, in these talks about Ayatana, I will want to treat them as Buddhism describes it. So leaving aside the problems of spiritual bypassing and escapism, and I want to treat it as the necessary relocations on the path to liberation. So that was the first glimpse into the topic of Ayatana. I have written two articles about the text. One is a short one a bit more in depth with quotes. I will leave the links to those articles in the description. In the next episode, I want to show that this knowledge of ayatanas is not exclusive to Buddhism. I think it's the most precise and most kind of mechanically, precisely put to text, put to paper in the Buddhist texts. But I think that many spiritual traditions, mystical traditions, esoteric traditions, especially if they involve practices and also in Hegelian philosophy, that they have an understanding of this. So in the next episode, I want to dedicate some space to showing how other spiritual traditions basically have a very similar idea. My goal with doing that is to show that Buddhism does not have a monopoly on the understanding of ayatanas. Actually, Buddhism wants to transcend any ayatanas. It is just an intermediary goal to move to a more refined headquarters. The goal is liberation, and liberation means that there is no ayatana left at all. And then in the third episode, I will describe aspects of meditation practices which will support at least vacations from the sensual realms and to transcend those sensory ayatanas and sensory home bases, because of course it can just be a glimpse. It needs talent and dedication and patience to do actually those, relocations to other ayatanas, and I cannot claim that I have basically a shorter recipe to do that. But nonetheless, I want to show you what those practices would be so that you can get a glimpse if you are interested to proceed further. further in that direction. I thank you for your attention. Let me know if you have questions, and I will be happy to address them. Until then, I see you the next time.